Perfect.
You know, I will say there's a lot of movement happening right now in the National Basketball Association. It almost feels like the offseason is a lot more entertaining and raucous than the actual NBA season. Like, I feel like there's more excitement and adrenaline flowing for the NBA offseason than it was for the NBA Finals. That's actually a problem I think the NBA needs to really work on. However, because Lord knows our New Orleans Pelicans are never even close to the NBA Finals, I have no complaints this year because finally the Pelicans gave us some offseason stuff that we can be excited about. And I'm not talking about a goddamn picture of Zion with a beard or Zion who looks like he's in great shape. You know, that seems like the past offseasons, that's been the most the Pelicans fans have had to have excitement about. Oh, look, Zion looks like he's lost a lot of weight. Oh, wow, look, Zion has a beard now. He's really going to be, get that out of my face, man. I'm tired of all that type of talk. I want some excitement. I was getting a little annoyed because David Griffin, after the season, after we got swept by the Oklahoma City Thunder, who lapped us as far as franchise movement goes, he promised, he said, we are not going to sit on our hands this offseason. We are not going to be complacent. We're not going to be like, well, we won 49 games, so we should be excited about the future. No, it was no more of that. Let's wait to see how everybody is when they're healthy. No, he actually finally made a move. And for that, he deserves applause because Lord knows he was getting a lot of heat, especially after the draft, which I was confused by. I mean, we drafted this kid from Baylor and everybody was all mad. I'm like, how many of you guys actually sat back and watched a game or two from him besides a highlight tape on YouTube? However, I understood because I was like, well, shit, the Pelicans have not done anything to get the fans excitement for a long time now, and they have not won anything of significance since 2017. So you know what? The fans probably are just mad at any and every little thing, and that's what happens when you're not winning anything of significance. So I understood it. But Friday, the Pelicans finally gave us something significant to be excited about, and that was with the trade of Dejounte Murray to the New Orleans Pelicans, from a Hawk to a Pelican. How exciting, how great. Now, I'm not going to act like Dejounte Murray suddenly makes the Pelicans an NBA Finals contender, but I am going to thank David Griffin, and I am going to thank Byron Graham, and I'm going to thank Bryson, I'm going to thank all of them for giving the fans something to be excited about. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about now, where does the Pelicans' future lie now? Because surprisingly, what made me even more excited about this Dejounte Murray trade was that, God bless them, we didn't really give up much. I mean, we gave up Larry Nance, we gave up E.J. Liddell, we gave up Dyson Daniels, who has a positive future with the team. But we didn't give up a lot. We gave up our Lakers first-round pick, and Lord knows, knowing the Pelicans' luck, they might finally be a lottery team. But you got to take chances. We got a guaranteed all-star for potential. I'm okay with that. But the main thing is that we kept Brandon Ingram, which was a shock. And now that opens up a whirlwind of what can the Pelicans do the rest of this offseason. Do we trade B.I.? Do we keep B.I.? Oh, we have a lot to talk about on the Jono Bone Show. We're lucky to have Jake Madison from Locked On Pelicans join us in about half an hour to talk about where does the future of the New Orleans Pelicans stand, and where does the Pelicans stand right now as far as how the team looks. Does Dejounte Murray suddenly make us a top-end Western Conference team? We have a lot to talk about, y'all. We have a lot to talk about. So sit back, relax, grab some popcorn. or some beignets or whatever you decide to have. And get ready, y'all, because this shit more than a stream.
You are now watching the Jono Barnes Show. We're so glad you came. Now sit back, relax, and get ready, 'cause this is more than a game.
And we want to thank the great Ed Sheeran for providing us that introduction to the Jono Bones Show. Now, y'all know how we got to start off every Jono Bones Show, whether you're watching on Twitch, whether you're watching on Twitter, whether you're watching on Facebook, or whether you're watching on YouTube. Do me a favor, y'all. Leave this shit more than a game in the chat right now so we can get the show started off on a great note. Because, again, guys, we have a great show for you guys tonight. Jake Madison from Locked On Pelicans will be joining us in half an hour to talk about the future of the New Orleans Pelicans. And we are excited because we have a lot of questions that need answers. We need to know, what is the future of Brandon Ingram? Is he going to stay? And if he stays, then what is his fit with Dejounte Murray and Zion Williamson? Are we going to now trade Brandon Ingram for even more, for depth, for another star? I see a lot of buzz about Laurie from Utah Jazz. What are we going to do? I'm excited. The Pelicans are finally giving us an offseason where there can be legitimate excitement. And again, not just excitement about, oh, Zion has a beard now. Guys, wow. 1,000 retweets. Zion has a beard. He means business this year, man. Hell with that, man. Trying to win games. Tired of talking about offseason photos and workout photos and shit like that, man. David Griffin did the damn thing with that. So let's talk about it, you guys. Let's talk about the Dejounte Murray trade. Now, before I saw the return for the Dejounte Murray trade, I was not necessarily doing jumping jacks about the idea of trading Brandon Ingram for Dejounte Murray. And that's not anything against Dejounte Murray, or that's not even me trying to overstate the value or the player that Brandon Ingram is, because we all know his stock right now is probably rock bottom. I just thought that we could probably do a little bit better, especially because, you know, everybody was getting excited about Trae Young, even though all reports seem to suggest that David Griffin had absolutely no want or desire for Trae Young whatsoever. But what really got me out of my seat last Friday was when I saw that all we traded was Larry Nance. Well, I mean, I love these guys, right? But there's personal and there's business. This is all the business at the end of the day. At the end of the day, I want to win. I want to win. And having Dejounte Murray instead of Larry Nance and Dyson Daniels and EJ Liddell and these goddamn Lakers picks that ain't really been shit for us is a lot better than having those and going, 48, 49 wins again, playing team, first round sweep. Hey, maybe we'll win 3 games in the first round this year, right? You can't run it back, man. You can't. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting different results. You got to switch it up no matter how much you love the players. And Lord knows we take a liking to a lot of these players, especially some guy like Larry Nance who embedded himself in the community, which we love and we appreciate that. And that is why always and forever Larry Nance will be this shit more than the game certified. However, there is pleasure and personal, and there's business. And I'm always in favor of the team makes some business decisions, because at the end of the day, it's all about the wins and losses. That's the most this shit more than the game certification. Excuse me. Certification. It's the wins and losses. Dejounte Murray gives us more potential for wins and losses than Larry Nance and EJ Liddell and Dyson Daniels. So that's why I was excited. I was like, holy crap. We even got to keep Brandon Ingram. That's amazing. And then it made me wonder, okay, well, now that we have Brandon Ingram, what exactly is the game plan? Of course, reports say that the Pelicans are willing to meet in the middle with Brandon Ingram over a contract. But, of course, there's also the discussion of the Pelicans might still be having Brandon Ingram out there in trade talks to see what we can net in return. So I asked you guys before we bring on Jake Madison from Locked On Pelicans tonight, what do you guys think? Should we keep Brandon Ingram, or do we trade him and get even more assets or value or depth or whatever you think we can get from Brandon Ingram to continue to build this team? Because with Dejounte Murray right now, do I think we're better than last year? I do. I think Dejounte Murray is that good of a player that I do think we're better than last year. But we didn't even get 48 hours before the rest of the West say bet. You see Oklahoma City done that. Added Alex Caruso. They added Hardenstein from New York. You see the Mavericks added Klay Thompson. And I know Klay Thompson may not be the Klay Thompson from the early 2010s, but it's still Klay Thompson. right? You see all these Western Conference teams loading up as well. So you gotta continue to, you can't continue to be, like, oh, we made the Dejounte Murray trade. Now we gotta, we're good to go. We made our splash move. No, you gotta continue to build out this team because the West is on a take no prisoners moment. We got a little lucky, y'all. Paul George went to the Sixers, so he's out the Western Conference, so that helps us a little bit. I would like to think that the Clippers are now going to be a little bit weaker this season, but you got to continue to improve the team. And so that is why, in my opinion, I think that we should probably still trade Brandon Ingram. I'm not going to be upset if he ends up staying. I love Brandon Ingram. I'm sure a lot of you guys do too. But there's only one ball to go around. There's only one ball. You got CJ McCollum who needs his shots. To be effective, you got to get CJ some shots, right? You got to get Trey Murphy some shots. I mean, good Lord have mercy. He's the future, right? You got Zion who needs to have, in my opinion, 20 shots per game should be the floor for him. He should have a minimum of 20 shots per game. Then you got Dejounte Murray, along with Brandon Ingram still on the team. So there's only one ball to go around. So it's almost like an embarrassment of riches when it comes to all of the people on our team who are going to get their shots off, which means, in my opinion, might be too many cooks in the kitchen. And Ingram seems to be the most liable one that we should utilize and trade offers to get something back of value in return. Hell, maybe we can even put Brandon and CJ. And I know, look, this is Jono Barnes with his business hat on, okay? Again, sometimes you got to take personal feelings out the equation. I love BI. I love CJ. But if a BI and CJ package can get us something in return, I'm taking it. Because, again, and I see people in the chat saying, like, Jordan Hawkins. Yeah, Jordan Hawkins showed a lot of flash of potential in his limited playing time last year. You might want to see what he has. So you might want to get him more playing time. Well, how you get Jordan Hawkins more playing time? Sadly, you got to cut or reduce CJ's minutes or get CJ out of here. You want Dejounte Murray to get his shots off, right? Well, how do you do that? You probably got to take Brandon Ingram out of the equation. It's an interesting predicament for the Pelicans to be in, but an exciting one that I'm glad that we are in. Like, because again, when I saw that we traded for Dejounte Murray and Brandon Ingram was still a Pelican, I could not believe it, because now that just makes the possibilities endless. So I asked you guys, what do you say? I see my guy Perils pressing the chat. He asked, Jono, do you going to have a plenty? I'm going to have to play center for how it's looking. And again, that might be a reason why we need to trade Brandon Ingram, because we don't have a 5 right now. And I know Willie Ingram, Willie Green wasn't always the biggest proponent of playing Jonas Valanciunas, who went to the Washington Wizards. So how important is a 5 in Willie's scheme? Who knows? I mean, he likes to play more of the stretch 4s, and he has Zion close out of the games as the 5. Maybe he wants to do something similar to that with more consistent minutes with the offense. I don't know. But we do need a center, absolutely. And that is why you have Brandon Ingram right there. Do you try to get a center from a Brandon Ingram trade? There's some centers out there still in the free agency market, by the way. Now, there have been a lot of centers that have been signed so far, but there are some centers out there that we can still try and sign to be the number 5 for us. But I do think Willie wants to lean towards the stretch 4, like he had Larry Nance playing power forward to end games and Zion at the 5. I think that's kind of the vision that Willie Green sees as his team continues to build his way, and with James Borrego staying with the team, because Borrego seemed like he was interviewing with every single team that had a head coaching vacancy. and he's still a New Orleans Pelican. How does that go, right? So we still have James Borrego. So how does that fit into the equation of what the Pelicans are going to look like next year? The Kareem report says we need to keep BI and trade CJ. I don't know how much CJ would net the Pelicans by himself. I'm not opposed to trading CJ. I do think the fans are a little bit harder on CJ than he deserves. He's trying to, I mean, we traded CJ with the mind frame that he was going to be the number 3 guy of the big 3. And unfortunately, either Zion or BI has always heard that we have to play CJ as a main guy, when at this part of his career, he should probably be the 3rd wheel, hell, probably even the 4th wheel at this point. But I would not be opposed to trading CJ if we get value in return. But me saying that is not trying to be an indictment on CJ's time in New Orleans. I think CJ's been great. I think he's actually been dealt an unfair hand, to be honest. And I think a lot of fans are a little too tough on CJ, if we're being honest. Like, at the end of the day, we saw it in the playoffs. It's all about the guys, right? Like, the playoffs are all about, do you have that guy on your team? Well, we had that guy on his team. His name is Zion Williamson. The problem is he's never available in the playoffs. Like SGA was available. He is a guy. You need your guys. It don't matter about your depth. I mean, the depth matters, right? But you need guys. And all of this is obviously for naught if Zion is not playing in the playoffs. So I think sometimes we are a little bit unfair on CJ. I think we are fair on BI because BI was advertised as a guy. And he has not lived up to that reputation of being a guy. I mean, Lou Dort shut him down in the playoffs. So we'll see with that. Chun says, Jordan Hawkins makes CJ expendable in 2025. I agree. I don't want to overrate Jordan Hawkins. I don't want to act like he's the next great thing. But he did show a lot of flashes of potential that I am willing to give him a lot more minutes this upcoming season to see if he is indeed that lethal shooter that we desperately need to pair with Zion. Sebastian says we should start Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. I agree. And and this is where the CJ thing comes in. Like, Trey has shown flashes that he can be a top-end scorer in this league. I do think the fans overrate Trey Murphy a tad bit. I think Trey Murphy has a bright future. I think Trey Murphy is going to be very good. I do think that if everything goes great, best case scenario, Trey Murphy can absolutely be an all-star. But I do think sometimes the fans overrate Trey Murphy a tad bit. That happens with every fan base, right? Like, we always are going to overrate the guys on our team. Lord knows we as Saints and Pelicans fans have overrated the shit out of some average to solid to mediocre players in our lifetime because they wore black and gold or red and teal and blue. But I do think, I agree, Sebastian, that Trey Murphy needs more minutes. Like, we need to see, is Trey Murphy that guy or not? Is Trey Murphy able to be a top-end scorer or not? And having CJ on the team, it kind of just limits the growth, I believe, of Trey Murphy and Jordan Hawkins because guys need minutes and guys need shots. That's just the bottom line. Sometimes that's why you see players who get traded to other teams wind up blossoming into all-stars on other teams because suddenly they don't have to worry about playing behind a veteran. Like, they get an extra 7 or 8 shots per game, and that changes the whole dynamic of their career. So I absolutely understand why some fans might think that BI and CJ need to go for the younger players. Now, with that comes growing pains, right? Because Trey Murphy and Jordan Hawkins have never had starter minutes before in their lives. So I hope fans understand that if we do say we trade BI or CJ and we say, okay, Trey Murphy, you got the reins now. You're the shooting guard. Okay, Jordan Hawkins, you are now the dedicated sixth man. You're going to get an extra 10 to 11 minutes per game. When they go through bouts where they struggle, I hope fans understand that, hey, that's what comes with playing the young guys that you guys wanted so much over the savvy veterans like C.J. McCollum and Brandon Ingram. Calvin Washington says Najee Marshall signs with the Dallas Mavericks. Yes, the Pelicans have actually lost a good bit of free agents, but not any that I think is detrimental to the – I mean, we got swept. We didn't even win the game in the playoffs. Actually, the past 4 years, we've only won 2. We've only won 2 first-round games. Like, that's been the ceiling for the Pelicans in the past 4 years. So I'm sad at some of these guys, even because Najee Marshall was great. Larry Nance was great. But at the same time, Jonas Valanciunas is great. But I'm like, at the same time, well, shit, it ain't like we made it to the Western Conference Finals. It ain't like we even made it to the second round. So, hey, we can't be as fans mad and complain. I'm not saying you are, Calvin. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying in general. We can't as fans be like, something needs to change. We got to, we can't be doing this. And then, we get some people get upset when Najee Marshall leaves or Larry Nance leaves or Jonas Valanciunas leaves. I mean, we told the Pelicans to make some changes. Sounds like they're making changes to me. Sounds like they are making changes to me. The Kareem says everybody on our team is always hurt. But I get you, Kareem. I get you. I mean, the injury bug, we could do not even an episode. We could do a whole goddamn season of the Jono Bones Show about how hurt the team always is. So, I mean, at this point, you just kind of got to go into each season expecting that somebody's going to be hurt. So, that's kind of like why I started to get annoyed with the Pelicans saying, we're going to run it back. We're going to run it back. We're going to run it back. We're going to wait till we see how this team looks when healthy. What? We're never healthy. We're never healthy. Chun actually gave us his starting 5 that he would do. And he says he wants Herb, Trey Murphy, Zion, Dejounte Murray, and this is a hot name in the trade streets right now, Wesley Conker. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna be mad if we trade for Wesley. I do I'm one of those, I guess general fans who would rather Laurie. I mean, I know that it would be a lot for us to get Laurie from the Utah Jazz, and someone like Wessler might be a little, or Kessler or whatever, might be a little more feasible, but maybe. But all I have to say is Chun wants BI off the team. The Kareem says BI is that guy. He lost respect for Zion when Zion didn't play last year when he should. Is that a confirmed report, Kareem? It's a Kareem report reporting from his sources. Because I get it, BI was hurt, but that's the thing. BI is always hurt. And look, I think this is a make or break year. I know the Walker Kessler thing. This is what happens when you do a live show and you ain't got nobody else to feed off of. I'm trying to read the comments while doing this reading the comments live while not having Ziggy or Evan or Sean show up. Y'all know how they are. That's what happened. I need a white co-host. Is anybody white in the chat? Because white people actually show up to work. Okay? You always relying on black people to show up to work on time. Oh, I'm gonna be there, Jono. I'm gonna be a little late though, Jono. So blame my co-host. But anyway, Kareem report. I don't agree with this though. I don't think BI is that guy. I'm sorry. We've given BI the chance 4 years now. You either got it or you don't. You either got it or you don't. Like, he could be upset at Zion all he wants. If you're playing, you're playing. Playoffs is for big boys. And that's one of the things I always say about BI and Zion. I always say, can we trust the two of them? Like, those two struggle sometimes, and Zion did a great job last year. I'm not trying to act like he didn't play 65 plus games, but those two struggled the past few years to survive the regular season. Do we as fans have belief or faith that Zion or BI can survive 4 grueling playoff series? Hell, Zion couldn't survive the play-in. So that's kind of like the pink elephant in the room, that none of this matters. None of these trades, none of these free agency moves, none of these draft picks, none of this matters if Zion cannot get his ass healthy for the playoffs. That's just the bottom line. I love Zion, but the bottom line is we need Zion in the playoffs. And right now, Zion has given us absolutely nothing to show that he can survive a playoff series, much less 4. That's the pink elephant in the room. But however, Zion's potential is way too high to not continue to build around him and see what happens. It'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting, y'all. How do y'all feel about us losing Jonas Valanciunas? How do y'all feel about us losing Najee Marshall? And how do y'all feel about us losing? I mean, I don't know how y'all feel about us losing Larry Nance. I mean, we all were excited because we got Dejounte Murray out of it. But do y'all think it was a mistake for us to let Jonas Valanciunas go? And to be honest, Jonas Valanciunas had his house on the market literally the day after the season ended. So we all kind of saw that coming, right? We all saw it coming, but because I know Jonas Valanciunas is a favorite amongst fans. So how do y'all feel about that loss? So essentially, so far this offseason, we've added Dejounte Murray and Eves, our draft pick. Now, granted, I don't think I expect much from Eves this year, but maybe he surprises us. And we've lost Jonas Valanciunas, we've lost Larry Nance, and we've lost Najee Marshall. Do y'all think in the chat, as of right now, while we still have Brandon Ingram on the team, that the Pelicans are a better team on July 2nd than they were on June 2nd? Or do you guys think that we are a worse team? Because somebody think that we're a worse team. Somebody said that Dejounte Murray does not equate to the depth that we've lost so far. Or do y'all think we're about the same? Do y'all still think we're going to be a 47 to 50 win team, probably a 7-8 playing type team? And if things go well, maybe we'll win a few first round playoff games. Let me know in chat, how do y'all feel about the New Orleans Pelicans so far as of 2024, July 2nd? And let me know, do y'all think if the Pelicans should trade Brandon Ingram? It seems like the consensus is that a lot of y'all want to trade Brandon Ingram. Chun says JV, Najee, Dyson, and Larry were all expected to leave. Allows rookies and younger players to develop. Now, again, I agree with that. I'm okay with that. I just want to say we have to, as fans, be prepared, though, for Trey and Jordan Hawkins to struggle a bit, right? Like, I hope fans don't expect Trey. If we got rid of BI or CJ, I hope fans don't expect Trey Jordan, and it's definitely Jordan, to come in and suddenly average like 20 points per game and make all these shots or whatnot. Like, they're going to struggle. And that could lead to losses. But that's the situation the Pelicans find themselves in. I guess a lot of fans think that the future of this team is with the young guys like Jordan Hawkins and with Trey Murphy over guys like Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum, who we already know what they are, right? Kai the Great 84 says he's actually not feeling the return that we would get from Sacramento if we decide to trade for BI, unless we flip what we get from Sacramento to another team. Only time will tell at this point. So it seems like the Kings are the favorites to land BI. That was a team that reports have said is the most interested team, I guess. We'll see, because sometimes a team can come out of nowhere and make the trade, or maybe it'll be a multi-team trade. I would say if we did do a trade with the Kings, I would hope that we get some draft picks out of it. So in the chance that it all blows up, right? Like, because we want to get that great of a return from the Kings. We'll get a solid return. Like, I see some fans balking at the idea of Harrison Barnes. I'm going to be honest. I just want Harrison Barnes. I can finally have a Pelicans Barnes jersey and I could buy it and it would never go out of stock for me. But obviously, like a Utah Jazz trade for BI is a lot more exciting than the prospect of a Sacramento Kings trade. But if we do trade with the Kings, I want a draft pick out of it because I want to have some cushion. Like if we fall, we rock bottom. If Zion just ain't that guy that we think he is and we crash, we have a little bit of cushion with the draft picks that we got from Sacramento in a BI trade that we can sort of do a rebuild again. Because I feel like, y'all, let me know if I'm wrong. I feel like these next 2 years is do or die time. Let me know if I'm wrong. I mean, I think so. Like this is going to be Zion's 6th and 7th year upcoming. It's do or die time. Like we got to see if Zion is that guy that we can count on or not. And if we go through these next 2 seasons where Zion still struggles to make it through a playoff series, much less the whole playoffs period. I mean, he hasn't played any playoff games, period. It would be time to have the tough conversation of, do we let Zion go on? May sound sacrilegious because I know that we don't have stars knocking on the door for the Pelicans to come play in New Orleans, but we will have to ask ourselves in the next year or two, is Zion worthy of us trying to continue to build around? So if we do trade with the Kings, BI, I would hope we got some draft picks in return to kind of have some cushion in case this all just turns out for naught and that the Pelicans just aren't going to do anything of significance in the Zion Williamson era. Sebastian says, he thinks the Pelicans are better right now. We just got too many cooks in the kitchen. I agree. And younger players that need more minutes, which is why I feel CJ and a BI package for another good big man would be good. I agree. I absolutely agree. I would be 100% on board with that, Sebastian. I think you and I are on the same wavelength with that. My dude, Justin, who is very excited that he got to link up with somebody from the Phoenix area who is a Pelicans fan. You see, the Jono Barnes show brings people together. He says, DJM fits the fire system. It sucks about JV, but he didn't go. Now that is why my guy Justin is this shit more than the game certified, because that was actually my first reaction too when I saw that JV sign with the Wizards. I was like, well, shit, it ain't the Lakers. As long as it ain't the Lakers, then I'm good. Long as it ain't the Lakers, then I'm good. So, Justin, you know me and you. We talked about this on Sunday. We're on the same wavelength with that. As long as the Lakers continue to get screwed, I don't give a damn. I'm happy. I mean, the Lakers' big offseason move so far seems to be that they got Bronny James. Congratulations. We'll talk about Bronny James and that whole conversation a little bit later on in the show. Chun says the Laurie trade by Danny Ainge is holding trade talks up, it seems like. I don't know if it's necessarily holding trade talks up. We already know who Danny Ainge is, right? Like, Danny Ainge is always going to be very stubborn when it comes to trades. But I do think the Pelicans are in a luxury spot right now where we don't have to trade BI tomorrow, right? Like, we are not in a rush to trade BI. So we can be patient too. Like, we ain't in a rush to trade BI to the Kings. We ain't in a rush to trade BI to whatever team comes a knocking. Like, if Laurie is on the trade market and Danny Ainge wants to be hard-headed and take his sweet time trading, well, guess what? We can take our sweet time being patient because the Pelicans are in no rush right now whatsoever. The Dejounte Murray trade and keeping BI, again, I can't stress enough how much luxury and how much possibility it gave the team. So even if BI is still on the team come September or October, I guess it would depend on if he actually got a contract extension. But all that to say, like, the Pelicans are in a good spot where we don't have to rush where we do. It would be nice to know so we can kind of have a good feel about our future. But the Pelicans are in no rush. So I hope if usually trade talks sometimes comes down to who sweats first. David Griffin has absolutely no reason to sweat because we are in no rush to trade BI. That's why I love this Dejounte Murray trade, y'all. Like, I really love this Dejounte Murray trade because we didn't trade BI. The possibilities of what we can do now are endless. And had we traded BI and that Dejounte Murray trade, we would put that's basically our team. Like, that's it. That's the offseason. Like, now you just kind of find some bottom of the barrel free agents and hope that Zion takes that leap. You still hope that Zion takes that leap. But now that we still have BI, man, the possibilities are endless. And that is why I'm excited to have Jake Madison join the show in about 5 minutes so we can talk to a real expert, someone who's not going to say Walker Kessler. And he can tell us what he's hearing in those Pelican streets about what BI's future is and what he thinks the Pelicans should do when it comes to BI. So I hope you guys continue to stay on the show. We have over 32 people watching right now on Twitter. That's actually some good numbers for us in the offseason for a small show. I'm sure we have a lot on Twitter right now. I don't see the Twitter numbers, but I know a lot of y'all are going to be very excited to have Nola Jake, a.k.a. Jake Madison, join the show. And that's all because of you guys, by the way, y'all. Like, you guys have given me enough of an audience and platform that I'm able to get some esteemed guests. Like, we had Ross Jackson on the show 2 weeks ago. We have Jake Madison joining the show tonight. We actually have some more Saints and Pelicans featured guests joining us on the show in the upcoming months. And that's all because of you guys. So I hope you guys know how much I appreciate that. And for us to continue to get guests like that, I'm going to need you guys to do me one favor if you have not already. Fans, hit the subscribe button in 3 seconds to make this Falcons fan sad. 3, 2, 1. Don't be afraid, y'all. Hit that like and subscribe button. Hakeem says, if we get Laurie, more than likely it will cost us picks plus Herb and Hawkins. It might, I don't know. That's a lot. I mean, Laurie's good, but I don't want to overvalue him either. What do y'all think a Laurie trade return package would cost? And matter of fact, if y'all have any questions for Jake Madison, who can obviously answer this question a lot better than me, when Jake Madison comes on the show, feel free, y'all, to use this chat to ask Jake Madison any questions that you might have. But do I think Laurie would also cost us Herb and Hawkins and picks along with BI? I would think that it would have to be a multi-team trade because that's a lot for Laurie. I like Laurie, but I mean, the kid ain't that good. He's good. Laurie's real good. I would be very excited if we got Laurie, but I don't know if he's worth all that. Like, I understand he might be worth BI, and or a Herb or Trey Murphy. I can accept that reality. I really could. But a Herb, a BI, and a Hawkins, that's a lot. That is a lot for a guy who is not a multi-time All-Star. So I hope that team, well, I damn sure hope David Griffin doesn't bend his knee to Danny Ainge that much. Again, Laurie's good. Laurie's good, but good Lord have mercy. I mean, we haven't seen Zion in the playoff game yet to bet the form on that when Herb should be a core piece if you ask me. But again, y'all, when we get Jake Madison on the show, y'all can ask all of these questions because Jake knows a lot more about this than me. So Jake can actually give you guys an expert opinion instead of me just yelling at the screen, okay? Let me say, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, and I definitely hope we get some of the everydayers of Locked On Pelicans to join as well, but we're going to have the esteemed Jake Madison join the show to talk all things about the future of BI, about the Dejounte Murray trade, about maybe Laurie. It seems like that's what the most coveted player that Pelicans fans want. We got a lot to talk about. So let's hear a word from a quick commercial break from one of our sponsors, and then we will have the great Jake Madison join the show. No matter what, we all know that this shit more than a game, and now you can wear it with pride. Visit www.jonobarnes.com or thisshitmorethanagame.com and buy your This Shit More Than a Game shirt now for the low price of $28.03. You can buy it in black and gold, purple and gold, white and blue, red and navy blue, all types of colors. We've got you covered here on the Jono Barnes Show. So visit www.jonobarnes.com or thisshitmorethanagame.com and buy your This Shit More Than a Game shirt now
and let the world know, folks, this shit more than a game.
All right, guys. I am excited about this. This shows you just how far the Jono Barnes Show has come in our very short year of being a podcast, a live stream, whatever the hell you want to call it. We have on the show right now. This man needs absolutely no introduction whatsoever, but I am legally abided to give him an introduction. He is the host of Locked On Pelicans. He is the co-host of Locked On NBA. So not only does he know his Pelican stuff, but that man knows all things NBA as well. He's a thesaurus of knowledge when it comes to basketball. He also serves as a contributor for WDSU and a ton of local sports stations across the Louisiana region. Y'all know him. He is the great Jake Madison.
Oh man, that was an introduction, and I hope I can live up to that, dude.
Jake, it would have been a better introduction, Jake, if my co-host actually showed up. They had the soundboards and everything, but you know how co-hosts are, Jake. But it's okay because now we just can have an intimate conversation, Jake, between me, you, and this shit more than the game community. Jake, how are you doing today, my man?
I'm doing well. Happy to be on talking some hoops with you. You know, it's like long-time listener, watcher, first-time caller here, so I'm happy, man.
I will say, Jake, it is an exciting time to be a Pelicans fan. And I saw a tweet from you last Friday, and I actually disagree with it because you said one thing about the Pelicans, even though they haven't technically won anything of significance the past few years, they are never boring. I disagree with that, Jake. Sometimes the team is a little boring to me. Like I say, it feels like the past few off seasons, the most exciting we got was, oh, look, Zion looks like he's lost weight. Oh, look, Zion has a beard. This past Friday, we finally had some legitimate, genuine excitement with the Dejounte Murray trade. So the first question I have for you is, how do you like the Dejounte Murray fit in New Orleans?
You know, look, I'm pretty thrilled about this trade for the Pelicans. You know, when I was literally on an airplane when that news broke, which is, of course, like the most perfect timing on everything.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
So for people who don't follow Jake on Twitter, which if you're not, what are you doing? Jake tweeted in the afternoon. He said, I'm about to catch a flight. Let's see if the NBA guys are going to mess with me and something big happens while I'm on a flight. For some reason, that tweet stuck with me. And so when we traded for Dejounte Murray, I was like, one of the first people I thought about was Jake. I was like, yep, Jake called it.
Like, just like, of course, how it always goes with everything. But like, so I'm on the plane and I'm like, you know, checking my phone and I see it's like the Pelicans are trading for Dejounte Murray. And like the follow-up tweet that I was expecting was going to be like for Brandon Ingram and other things. And you were just talking about this when I was watching you before coming on here, right? Like, the fact that they pulled this trade off without including Brandon Ingram in this deal, I think just makes this a win no matter what, because then that opens the possibilities of what else could you trade Brandon Ingram for? So just that alone, I think, is a really good thing. The Pelicans had two needs going into this offseason. They needed to get some sort of point guard, lead guard, and they needed a center. Well, you addressed one of those, and now you still have pieces to address the other. So I think that's great. You know, on Murray, right? Like there's a reason they liked him more than Trae Young, and he might not be the shooter or have the court gravity that Trae Young does, but he kind of fits everything a little bit better. You compare him with CJ McCollum in the backcourt because of his size, 6'5". You know, in San Antonio, he was a good defender. I think, you know, his not bad defense, but not great defense was more of an Atlanta thing than a Dejounte Murray thing. So I think you'll see him amp it up on that side of the ball. But him and Herb Jones in the backcourt is going to just terrify opposing ball handlers at the point of attack. You know, having good size means you're going to be a slightly better rebounding team than with a smaller guard. You know, defensive rebounding was something that I think was a bit of a problem for the Pelicans last year. Maybe this allows you to play Zion Williamson as a small ball 5 at times. You know, we'll probably talk some other trade targets too. You can maybe get a guy who's not as good of a rebounder, right? You know, he can play in the clutch. Look, they were terrible in the fourth quarter last year. They were terrible in close games. They needed to just do something to add a little bit more punch there. Like he just kind of fits a lot of what they needed, I think.
Absolutely. And I believe Woj tweeted about us being winless in clutch minutes last season. That sounded like that came from David Griffin himself, to be honest. I'm like, Woj.
All of Pelicans Twitter, too, is aware of it, man. Like,
because I'm like, Woj damn sure doesn't know that at the top of his head. But you mentioned, and this is my exact mindset as well, Jake, when I saw the return that we gave to Atlanta, I was ecstatic. I was like, holy crap, we actually kept BI, because now it just opens up a limitless potential of what this team can do going forward. which leads to the question that everybody is asking. And I purposely did not watch, and I'm very sorry because I love your show, but I said I did not want to hear what Jake thinks about this until he comes on my show so I can hear it for the first time and it's fresh to me. I genuinely and I truly want to know, Jake, what do you think about B.I.'s future in New Orleans? Will he be a Pelican on opening night, or do you think the Pelicans are going to trade him still?
It feels like they're still going to trade him. That's the piece that they could move that has the most value. And look, like there's a glaring need for a starting center on this team. You have Yves Missi, the rookie, and that's really it. And when you look at kind of the free agent class here, one, they weren't good in the first place, right? Like we were talking ourselves into Andre Drummond playing a significant role on this team, which kind of tells you where like our mindsets are. But now that he's not on this team and they're going to address this in another way, look, Andre Drummond wasn't the answer, right? Like Goga Bitadze from the Orlando Magic, like wasn't the missing piece for this team. Now you can just think like bigger. Right now, it is a Jared Allen, it is a Miles Turner, even if it's not exactly those guys. So because you need to get more front court depth, the only way you're going to do that is in a Brandon Ingram trade, either directly or indirectly. Maybe you trade him for pieces that lead to that center, or you trade him straight up for that type of guy. But that leads me to believe it's much more likely than not that he's going to be traded and won't be on the team at the start of the regular season.
It's very interesting. That's what I thought too. And to hear that from you, I'm still. I mean. I feel because I keep checking my phone. Like, is it happening? Like, is
it happening right now here?
We're not in a rush to trade him, but I feel like, and that's exciting. Like, that's genuinely exciting to me as a fan. Sometimes as a fan, like, if you're not going to be winning playoff games, you got to have some hope, right? Like some excitement to rely on. The Pelicans are finally giving me an offseason where I'm almost on pins and needles to see what do we do with BI. Everybody in the chat, I'm sure everybody in your chat, Jake, everybody in your mentions, everybody that you see tweet on your timeline is real excited. You mentioned the centers, but it seems like the hot guy that everybody wants is Laurie from Oklahoma. I mean, from the Utah Jazz. I don't want you to be a wet blanket, but is this actually a legit thing that the Pelicans can possibly get Laurie, or do you think that is a pipe dream for Pelicans fans?
I think it's a bit of a pipe dream for two reasons. And, first and foremost, I saw someone in your chat, shout out Michael Morgan here, saying Danny Ainge is not taking a loss in a trade, right? Like that is what he was known for with the Boston Celtics. Like that dude, if the media might report like the other team got the better deal here, like that trade isn't happening. And so he puts like an exorbitantly high price on his guys. And Lauri Markkanen being like a real good player who had a breakout past 2 years in Utah, like he's not going to come cheap. Like that's something that's going to take 5-6 first-round picks in some sense to try and get that guy. And after this trade for Dejounte Murray, New Orleans doesn't really have that. And if they're not going to include Trey Murphy and or Herb Jones in that, like I think that's a bit of like just a non-starter in a straight up deal for Markkanen. The other thing with Markkanen, like he isn't a center. Like this is a small forward or a power forward. And though he is 7 foot, he's played very few minutes at the center position. I looked it up this past year. He played 76 possessions as their center. That's it. Right? Like that's less than 1 game's worth of being in that spot. So I don't think he makes sense positionally for New Orleans. Talented player. Maybe you try him at center. Maybe you try Zion at the 5 with him as your power forward, something like that. Like there's ways you could do it, I think. But I think just the fact that like he fits next to Zion, but does he fit with the team? And do you have the ammunition to be able to go and get him? I think that creates a bit of an issue of trying to trade for him. Doesn't mean they won't, and doesn't mean that they couldn't find a way. I think that's kind of the big issue there.
Yeah, you being a wet blanket, Jake. Jeez, I was excited about the idea, and here you are killing all my hopes about. I'm a believer, Jake. Talent always, all that other stuff.
I agree with that. Like, I think that's the correct thing. Like, that's why I said, I actually talked about it on my show today, and it was like, you know what? Like, go for it. Figure it out later, like sometimes just put talent on and let it sort itself out, I think here.
I think we always rely on the future, and maybe some people are going to be scared to give up. I'm assuming it's going to cost a lot of. I mean, we saw how much Mikal Bridges went for, right? And all those draft picks New York had to give up. So I'm assuming Danny Ainge is going to want a similar return for him. So people get scared and say, we can't give up that much for the future. But I'm like, we've kind of, like, we haven't done anything. This is a fan talking, of course, Jake. Like, we haven't done anything of significance for damn near a decade now. 2017 was our last time we actually won a playoff series. So why not try something different? It's not like what we've done in the past 7-8 years has actually gotten us anywhere besides 2 playoff wins. And I'm starting to
I mean, that's like the argument for breaking up, Ingram and Zion here, right? You can point to a team like the Boston Celtics and be like, it's a real good thing they didn't give up on Tatum and Brown. That team got way further multiple times than the Pelicans did, right?
Hello?
Like that patience argument for these 2 players doesn't make a ton of sense, given that they haven't gotten out of the first round. There's a total of 2 playoff wins during their tenure here. So I think that's something that's worth keeping in mind of, like, you can keep doing what you're doing, but it hasn't worked. So maybe just go like a little bit crazy with it. I think that's easy for like you and I to say, right? Like, we're not running the team, and it's not, I'll still be doing a podcast even if they're bad, and David Griffin's out of a job if that's the case. So like that's a factor into it here. Like, there's that kind of, David Griffin's word, like the human element when it comes to that sort of stuff. So I get it. But yeah, at a certain point, like, just go for it. Like, please. Yes. Like, the worst thing you can do is be bad and boring, in my opinion. I'd rather you be bad and chaotic and fun at the very least, right?
Right. You're talking to Mr. This shit more than the game, so you absolutely, you don't even have to ask me that twice. As of July 2nd, 2024, Jake, and I guess you got to answer this question with the idea of Brandon Ingram still being on the team, because you can't predict who we are going to trade Brandon Ingram for. But as of July 2nd, 2024, I would say it seems like Oklahoma City is going to be the hot pick to be the Western Conference Finals team in the NBA Finals next year. Where do you think the Pelicans stand right now in the West? Do you think that with this Dejounte Murray trade, we are still in that 47 to 57, 8 seed range, maybe a play-in team? Or do you think that Dejounte Murray, and again, you got to answer this, I guess, because with Brandon Ingram still on the team, so with Brandon Ingram on the team, do you think that bumps us up maybe to a top 6 team, maybe even a top 5 team, maybe even a top 4? I mean, because I know it all is dependent on Zion's health, but do you think Dejounte Murray gives us that big of a bump, or do you think right now, because we still have BI, we're still kind of in that same range of 7, 8 seed?
Look, BI's still a talented player, right? Like, he's more likely than not going to get traded, and I think you've seen a lot of people like sour on him a little bit. But like, is it hit the point where maybe he's become like underrated again or something like that all of a sudden? But I think there's a little too much hate thrown his way for some of the stuff, right? There's reasons to knock him, but I think when you look at it now, OKC is probably the top team in the West. I think when you look at other Western Conference teams that got better, the other one is maybe the Dallas Mavericks, like signing Klay Thompson, adding in a guy like Najee Marshall, who gives them kind of depth on the wing that they don't like have. So, those are the 2 teams that got better in the West. But like, what other teams did? The Sacramento Kings haven't done anything. And if you're not getting better in the West, you're getting worse. Minnesota's big move was to add a rookie to the team. So that, from a bad draft, I don't know if they've gotten better. The Clippers just lost Paul George, and you're not going to replace that production even with like piecemeal guys that they've added in free agency. So when you look at it, like, I do think the Pelicans have kind of gone up if you're trying to predict the Western Conference right now. Like, I'd probably put them in the top 4 right now. The Suns are still.
Hold on. That's pretty big, Jake.
At the 4th spot, like, not above that, but I think it's like 4th or 5th in the West.
Home advantage.
Yeah, I agree. Like, look, they were fighting for that last season until like right at the end of the season. They had it, with like 5, 6, 7 games to go, something like that. If you get that continued health from Zion, but put it this way, how many games did they lose in the 4th quarter when they were trailing? Not one. They had like one 4th quarter comeback, or not one 4th quarter comeback.
It was definitely over 20.
Right? Like, if you just change that a little bit, how does that? If you had 2 wins onto them at 51, where's that put them? That sort of thing, right? Like, Murray helps you with that sort of stuff. So I think that's the type of thing that is a big addition to this team. Look, they don't have a starting center right now. And if we just look at the roster as it is, the center doesn't need to be a massive piece for this team. If you have a team that has Zion, Ingram, Murray, CJ, Trey, Herb, like, there is some talent here that can win you some games. So if you add 2, 3, 4 wins to this team, like, that's a pretty significant improvement. And I don't think looking for 4 more wins is like that unrealistic for this team. So that's why I'm somewhat optimistic. And look, admittedly, I err on the optimism side when it comes to things. It'd be miserable doing, what I do, what we do if we weren't like that. So that's part of it is like self-preservation. Maybe it's like a defense mechanism to not go insane or something like that. But I do think they're better. And, other teams aren't improving like this. And there's other big question marks around teams like the Phoenix Suns, right? Even
Right.
Minnesota was like this year an aberration. Are they eventually going to get cheap with some of the uncertainty and stuff around them? I think that leaves the door open for New Orleans, and New Orleans still has ways to dramatically improve themselves. Clippers don't, the Warriors don't, the Suns certainly can't. That at least leaves if you're looking for glass half full, like there's potential to get better. And I don't know if other teams have that. And keeping on the potential to get better, one of the things that I said made this past season a disappointment for the Pelicans is like they never reached their full potential. Like that team underachieved, in my opinion. If you fix some of that, if you get some growth from Coach Willie Green, and he needs some of that, that does make you a better team next season, I think.
I'm glad we're having this conversation because I think sometimes, and I don't even think it's unfair. I could be maybe more glass half empty, but that, like you look at my cup of water, you looking at this, you say, oh, John, you got a glass half full. I'm like, no, I got a glass half empty. But that's because the Saints and Pelicans have scarred me so much the past few seasons.
Look, the PTSD is a real thing, and I totally get it.
Exactly. And I'm kind of looking at it from the frame of, but San Antonio is on to come up with Wemby. Wemby's probably going to be the best player in 2 or 3 years. I'm like, Ja Morant's coming back, so it's not like we got the Grizzlies to not worry about anymore. I didn't necessarily look at it as, okay, are the Warriors now really coming down? Or the Suns looking like they possibly are coming down? So that's definitely a welcoming way to look at it, maybe a way that I should look at it. I'm sure I probably will take more of that. I mean, because, I'm a fan, Jake, like a lot of us are. So, like, we often kind of rely on hope. But I do have that PTSD where when it comes to the Pelicans, especially, I'm like, okay, what can go wrong? And I'm looking at these other teams behind us. Even Houston, I'm like, they might, potentially. But I will say this, Jake. If the Pelicans are a top 4 seed like you think they could be, we might throw a damn parade for them. Like, that would be some
big season
like that in forever, Jake.
No, like it's weird, right? It's weird looking at this past year for them, and it was a disappointment towards the end. Like it was. There was a lot of good in there too, but I do think overall the feeling is that of like disappointed. They had a top 3-4 season in team history here, which probably speaks more to the history of this franchise, right? Like than anything else. But there was a lot of good to build off of. And it's like one of those things of like one break goes their way a different way. If they don't blow some of these real stupid games that they shouldn't have blown, the season looks very different all of a sudden. And look, not having Zion in the playoffs means you didn't have Zion in the playoffs. And it's just like what could have been. But that's why I think I'm optimistic about this sort of thing. Again, I don't know. I look for the good in things like that. It means I get burned often with it with this team. So I get it. I think at one point I was like on my podcast saying like the Pelicans won't be in the play-in tournament this year. I guarantee it. And like, look what they did. So, there's a factor of that in there too.
I feel like you're like saying all my Twitter talking points from the past season because I was also this is a weird season. Like we're actually having one of the better Pelican seasons in history. Granted, the floor isn't that high, but
yeah, right.
It seemed like the excitement wasn't there, and I'm like, this is weird. Like we're actually having a good. If you would have told me October 2023, hey, the Pelicans are going to win 49 games, I would have said sign my ass up. Like I want that. Like, and we had that season, and it was like. It still felt like we were missing something that I think the Dejounte Murray trade will give us. So very interesting way of looking at it, Jake. I'm a little bit more optimistic after talking to you that maybe we could be a top 4 seed when you just laid out the points that you laid out about the other Western Conference teams. And, again, we'll see what happens with this BI trade. If we are not a top 4 team, Jake, if, say, we have another similar season where we're a 7-8 seed or a play-in team, we don't do anything in the first round. It doesn't even have to be a sweep. Even if we lose in game 7 of the first round, do you think David Griffin and Willie Green are on the hot seat? I don't. And it seems like, though, if a lot of fans think that Willie and BI are on a hot seat, do you think that they're on a hot seat?
I think it's warm. I don't think like anyone's in danger of getting fired right now. But look, we've definitely seen who Willie Green is as a head coach, and I'm not saying fire him now. I don't think they need to make a move with that. Like you've seen a lot of good from Willie Green in what he does, but there is some room for growth there, and that needs to happen this season, like without a doubt. And if you see some of the same stubbornness from him, like I do think you need to at least consider a change. But I think he knows this, and that's the type of thing where he's going to go in and realize like we've got to make some changes this year because the rotations need some work. One of the things the Pelicans are kind of doing a little bit this year is trading away some of the guys he relies on a little bit, right? Like no more Larry Nance Jr. on the roster. And I don't think Larry had as bad of a season as some people want to make it out for the Pelicans last season, but maybe rely on him a little too much. Well, you can't rely on a guy if they're no longer on the team. You saw the Pistons do this with Monty Williams last season. They straight up cut Killian Hayes so that Monty Williams would play Jaden Ivey because he was out of the rotation for a guy that did not need to be getting minutes on that Pistons team, to the point where they had to straight up waive the guy to kind of course correct with the coach. That's not an ideal situation, but it's a move that you can do when it comes to that. That look, if you've got no wings or shooters left, you've got to play Jordan Hawkins for that sort of reason. That's a method to kind of addressing some of that stuff here too. So I think that's a factor into it. If you don't get out of the first round next year with this roster, with some of the guys that you have, what's the reason for it? If it's injuries, that leads to a different discussion. If it's just it didn't work or you didn't get the most out of this roster, if we feel like they didn't reach their full potential again, you've got to make a change because what we're seeing right now in the NBA, there's a lot of talk of the second apron and how much of scary that is to teams. Your window for contention isn't very long anymore. The Boston Celtics are going to have it open for another year. And then you might look at someone significant from that team getting traded or multiple people getting traded. Look at the Los Angeles Clippers basically letting Paul George go for nothing because they're so worried about that second apron. And that kind of slams the door on their shot at contention. These windows don't last very long. You've got to maximize them as much as you can. And that could mean a new head coach. I won't disagree with that sort of statement. I don't think you need to fire him right now, but I do think going into next season, that's something that it's this is on our mind a little bit here.
I find it so interesting because I asked this question to your partner in crime, Ross Jackson from Locked On Saints, about Dennis Allen.
Well, they should fire Dennis Allen yesterday.
But Ross say it's not how. Ross say it was not even warm. And it confuses me, Jake, because Dennis Allen has absolutely no data to give him any type of benefit.
I'm sorry, did you see the data that Mickey Loomis brought to that press conference comparing him to Bill Belichick and all these other Hall of Fame coaches?
He's a Hall of Fame coach. Yeah, okay.
Just rolling my eyes at that one.
Actually made the playoffs twice. So I'm how is Willie C warm? A wild fan, and I get it. Yes, there's some things that he needs to work on, rotations being one of them. But he's actually made the playoffs twice. So, and Jake, I was a ball boy for I don't want to get my age out, but for 13 years, and obviously Willie was a player. That shows how old me and him both are when I was a ball boy. So I have a little bit of favoritism. But I think it should be he's done a fine job as a coach, if you ask me.
No, I agree with that. Look, they have an identity. It's on the defensive side of the ball, right? That's kind of where they make their bread and who they are. And that's why I think Murray fits into this. That's why I don't think they should fire Willie Green. I think the seat should be slightly warm, but I'm giving him a lot of leeway because I do think that there are good things here. I think sometimes the X's and O's of basketball get overrated a little bit for simply just getting people's buy-in. I think managing that is the toughest part of being a head coach. And we've seen that. These guys play hard for him. That is not the easiest thing. You've seen stuff like that up close and how some of these players can be to kind of get the buy-in from that roster, to build some of the chemistry and I don't know, just the happiness in that locker room. That's an underrated sort of thing, and that gets the most out of players. And Willie Green has done that. And being able to relate to players like that, I think, is an important thing. There does need to be some growth from him, though, but I don't think that means you need to fire him tomorrow or anything like that.
Well, I will say, Jake, that I am, if anything, at least excited about the possibilities of what the 2024-2025 Pelicans can be. And I don't think I've had this excitement in at least the past 2 seasons. So I am very much looking forward to not only what the team does this upcoming season, but for the rest of this offseason, because again, we have, in my opinion, this treasure chest that is Brandon Ingram's trade value, that we can maybe get something out of it. Maybe we keep him, maybe we get him to a contract that both parties agree with, but I'm excited to see where that heads. We have over 60 people watching on YouTube, which, I mean, I know, Jake, your show start off with 60 people in the first minute, but for the Jono Barnes show, that's pretty huge. So
not always, man. Like, that's a great number. You got to be proud of that.
Madison for that stimulus. We have over 400 people total watching across all platforms, including over 350 on Twitter. And I'm assuming that's because Jake Madison is definitely welcoming his Locked On audience. All of the everydayers watching on this show as well. So thank everybody for watching right now. If you're new to the Jono Barnes Show, hit that like and subscribe button. And for the 1 or 2 people who might be actual just Jono Barnes guys and don't know about Jake Madison, y'all got to give Jake a follow at Know the Jake on Twitter and Locked On Pelicans on YouTube. But I'm pretty sure everybody who's watching the show right now knows all about you, Jake.
I don't know about that, man. Like, I love your show. And you were like, can you come on? I was excited. I was like, I'll make time. We're going to put more time in for you. We're in no rush here. So, dude, you do awesome stuff. Give yourself the credit here.
Well, I appreciate that. But I am very much a happy recipient of the Jake Madison stimulus right now. And Jake, I don't know if you know, but we don't just talk about Pelicans when we have special guests like you on the show who specializes in that topic. We want to get to know our hosts a little bit better as well. So one question that I always ask our special guests when it comes to their specialized topic or what they do in their life is, give me a Mount Rushmore. So I had Eric McCoy on my show from the Saints, and I asked them, well, who are your top 4 centers? I had your guy, Ross Jackson, on the show. I say, give me your top 4 people to interview. I want to extend that same Mount Rushmore question to you, Jake, as you have been a credential media for the Pelicans for a few years now. I mean, again, I'm showing my age, y'all. When I was a ball boy,
more than a few.
People might think that me and Jake like first met from our social media stuff or whatnot. No, me now, I don't know if Jake remembers this, but like I've like that.
I remember, dude.
See him in the locker room. Now Jake probably will be like, "Who in the? I can't believe this guy, this little ball boy, turned into Mr. This shit more than a game." But funny how life works on Jake. But you've been in the media space for a long time now, Jake. So throughout your career, your young career, and definitely have a bright future ahead of you. But as of now, who is on your Mount Rushmore of players that you have interviewed?
So it's been a lot of like, it's gonna be a lot of like Pelicans guys that we talk to like somewhat regularly. Like up there is definitely gonna be Trey Murphy. Like the dude just has fun with it, and that's kind of what I like, right? Like you want people that are just like fun and entertaining to talk to when it comes to that. And Trey is like really willing to do that. I have something from Media Day that like I couldn't put out from him and Brandon Ingram doing an interview together on Media Day this past year, where like they just like cut loose to the point where I'm like, we're just gonna kind of keep this one here. And it was just like so much fun to be able to like interact with those guys in that way and like joke around. And yeah, there you go. I don't the whole thing isn't out.
This shit more than the game show.
I can't, man, you came prepared with that. Like we didn't plan this out. Like that talks about you as a host in your preparation to come in with like that when we didn't plan any of this out ahead of time. So that was actually like very good, dude. And they just had like so much fun and kind of they're, getting those he kind of got Brandon Ingram to open up in a way that like BI can be kind of pretty quiet and reserved. And then him being there with Trey, like opened him up more. So that's been like a lot of fun kind of seeing Trey have that kind of like energy around this team. I think when it comes to it, going back to like, players who aren't here anymore, even a guy like Drew Holiday was always very like insightful, I thought, and would give you really thoughtful answers. And those are the type of things that I really like because those are the type of things that help me learn more about basketball. I'm not a player, right? I didn't play in the NBA. I don't have their same perspective with it. So I'm going to throw out another name that I'm going to be curious how people are going to react to. I'm going to say Eric Gordon was also one of them. Yeah, you weren't expecting that one. So this goes back to when I was with Bourbon Street Shots, and he showed up to a watch party of ours.
Shout out to Bourbon Street Shots. I was a reader of that site.
Yeah, I know, like the OGs here. So he showed up to a watch party that we had and just sat down and talked with me and others, and I basically interviewed him for about an hour and a half, like a group of people sitting at the table while we were watching a Pelicans game. They were on a 1-game road trip to Houston, so he stayed, was injured, because of course, and then came to the watch party and just talked, but like he was breaking down the plays, going into a lot of like insight that you don't get, from look, I can only provide what I can provide. I'm not an NBA player. I don't have that mind. So hearing him go into that and being able to ask the questions and him being very forthcoming of that was really cool. And I learned a lot from that interaction. He also told me just a kind of insane Chris Kaman story, which was a lot lot of fun too. Man, that's a name too that was like interesting to bring up with that one.
Stories,
yeah, Chris Kaman had there's some stories there.
Wait, let's go.
Yeah, let's move on here. So like even Eric Gordon was a guy like that when it comes to it. So like those honestly are like some of the top ones. You had him on your show. Jason Smith is fantastic to talk to.
The man.
I interviewed him during the pandemic about that moment with Blake Griffin, and he's honest about it. I love that. You just want the honesty from people, and that's what makes that so fun. Jason Smith is pretty good. He'll come in and just kind of like tell you how it is. Also, that dude had an interesting career here. He was on the team with the Chris Paul trade request and then somehow came back and was here when Anthony Davis requested a trade. So like, do not put that dude on your team if you don't want your star player like opting out or like requesting a trade or something like that.
This is a funny comment we just got. So Chad says, don't bring up and it's always funny to me, Jake, because I know it's like a neck race between Eric Gordon and Anthony Davis for who's the most hated guy on Pelicans fans. And I love both of those guys, but I'm a ball boy, so I've had personal relationships.
It's like it's a different interaction.
Right.
It is entirely different than how they maybe come off in the media or something like that. Yeah,
right. And I hold my tongue back. I'm like, I can't. Like fans are going to be. I'm a fan, but fans who I guess weren't blessed like me to have that experience of being in the locker room, getting to know these guys. So I let them get their frustrations out with people like Eric. But when you say Gordon, like that doesn't surprise me because I've had obviously many conversations with Eric Gordon, and I know how personable he can be. Right now, Pelicans fans don't want to hear that because of the whole "my heart is in Phoenix" thing. But Eric Gordon is a great guy to me, and I'm not afraid to say it. And I sometimes have a tough time like just watching people just like trash AD. And I get it again as a fan. It's like people, if you leave New Orleans, then you can kiss out. But I'm glad that you gave Eric his flowers, I guess, because I know that that's not the most popular thing to do. I'm glad you gave Drew his flowers. Drew, awesome.
Everyone loves him, right? Like I was rooting for the Celtics in the finals for him. Like there's no reason not to love that guy and
Drew
everything
still
he did
owed
here.
me a jersey. He said he was going to give me a jersey, a signed jersey, and then he went to Team USA and won the gold medal. So I was like, I'm not going to bother him about it, and it kind of just got lost in translation. But he owes me a jersey. He owes me a lot. But Drew, that's the type of guy Drew is. Like Drew, whenever you had a request for him, Drew will always be willing to listen. We had a ball boy, his name was Gianni, who had a college project to do where he had to do like an interview or whatever. So Drew, before a game, like they did it in our equipment room, like an interview that was only seen by like 15 Gianni's classmates, and Drew, like this all-star NBA defender, sat down for 10 minutes and did an interview with this ball boy for a college project. Like things like that you don't see, but just shows you how awesome of a person he is. So I'm glad that Drew is on your Mount Rushmore. Of course, we love Jason Smith. I'm not that old where I was not here for Trey Murphy, so I don't really know him, but I would love to have him on my show one day because I see enough of his personality, like when he talks to you on social media, where I'm like, this guy and me would probably really get along well.
You two would have fun on here. Like without a doubt, you two would have fun.
That is a great Mount Rushmore, Jake, and I'm sure that it might be updated as you go along because you obviously have a head of a media career ahead of you. The question I have as you proceed with this media career is, are we ever, Jake, going to get the beardless Jake back?
Man, that picture's old. That picture is old. I'm
sure to also show just how long you have been doing this. Like you ain't new to this, you're true to this.
No, man, it's been like something like almost 15 years or something I've been doing this now. It's been a lot of bad basketball watching that at times. I don't like shaving, so I'm probably not going back to that anytime soon here. Pierre in that picture, by the way, has a microphone that I was using for an interview and just came over and like put it in his mouth and then just posed for the picture, which was pretty good.
We love Pierre. I'm surprised Pierre didn't make your Mount Rushmore.
He doesn't talk enough, although he does everything else pretty well.
Jake, let's all right, this is the last question, but this is a very serious question. You and Ross Jackson in a cage fight. Who comes out the winner?
Man, he would hate me if I said something here. I
Hard-hitting
really
questions
want
on the
to.
Bond Show. Hard-hitting
Um,
questions.
Ask Ross about his workout routine one time. He would kill me if I said something. It would be funny, but I'm not going to. We like each other too much. Like, we hang out all the time. We are like legitimately good friends. Like, we would just never fight. It would be a tag team where we're on the same team. There's no way we would actually get in a cage match with one another. We would just kind of like sit down, hang out, probably have drinks and have the best time, and everyone would go home because it's a boring fight.
I joke, but I put that picture to say that you and Ross are doing some trailblazing things, in my opinion. You know, we think of traditional media as you had to be on a radio show or you had to be on one of the local newscasts to be a credentialed media. But you and Ross, I hope y'all know the trailblazing you guys are doing, where you show people like me. And granted, I'm not media. I'm not trying to be media. I'm doing it in a way different stratosphere than what you guys are doing. But you guys show me that, oh, there is a way to build a platform and do something where you don't have to go and be on WDSU or WWL-TV, which is great to do. Like, those stations are awesome, but like, there's new ways in the 2020s to do it, and you and Ross are leading the way with that. And while we have you on the show, I just want to give you and Ross your flowers, because I think some 10, 20, I mean, there's kids watching you and Ross right now, Jake, and y'all are the Buddy D, the Jim Henderson to these kids. Like, what you guys are doing, what they're going to say, I want to be Ross Jackson. I want to do Locked On Saints one day. I want to do Locked On Pelicans. I want to be like Jake Madison. So I hope you know that we as a fan base appreciate the hell out of you guys. And I even saw somebody put in the chat earlier, they said, I don't be asking Jake no questions. He's all over the place. Well, that means, Jake, you're doing something right. When you got haters as well, that means
Trust me, I got those. It's okay.
That means you. That was my I made it moment, Jake. Like, when I started seeing people like tweet about how lame I am, and I'm like, I'm doing something right if I finally got me some detractors. So you don't worry about that, though. You want the people who show you love. And Jake, I hope you know how loved you are within the Pelicans community, man. You guys are, again, I don't know if you say I don't give myself enough credit. I hope you know how much credit you deserve for even trying to say that. I don't know if we want to call it independent media, because Locked On is a legitimate
part of a
media
big network,
story.
Yeah. But there was a vision there.
It's a new wave of media, if you ask me.
No, I agree with that. And that's why I feel very indebted to Locked On, and I'm thrilled to be doing what I do. But, I came up, I know you want to do this another time too, where we kind of talk about the path and everything, because I took a very non-traditional one to be where I am today. But a lot of it was timing. A lot of it's, I started as a blogger essentially and kept working at it and going. It takes grind and hustle. And what you're doing, I think, is even harder though. Like, I mean that. Like, I feel very fortunate, and I've had a lot of luck on my side. But look, I'm not funny on Locked On Pelicans. When I try and be funny, it fails a little bit. I think I'm funny, but I don't know if that comes off to like the audience. You're doing this by like being you. And I think that's what's so impressive about it. Like, you are, I know you pretty well. Like, you're authentically you. And I think that's what draws a lot of people in. I think I'm a little formulaic at times, and it fits because there's a need for things like that. But there's times when I'm like, I really wish I could be like you more and let myself be a little bit looser on some of that. And it just doesn't work for me. And that's okay. And that's what I love about what you're building, and why I like supporting you. And I'm so excited to be on here and, just be associated with you, of like, you were just unapologetically you. And I freaking dig that, man. And I think that's awesome. And I think that's hard to do. It's scary to do too. And you're doing all of that and being successful with all of that.
This was supposed to be me giving you your flowers, Jake, not you giving me.
I'm gonna turn it around. Here.
Jake Madison on the Jono Bond Show, not Jono Bond. I do appreciate that. That's why I don't try to aim for like that media personality title, though, because I want to continue to be a fan where I can still like you can't go on Locked On Pelicans and say, well, the green yellow rotations are ass, get ready, like you gotta
it's like I can criticize them certainly, and I definitely do, right?
But like, you can't do it the way like I can do it, where I can yell and be like, what the this shit more than a game, right? You got to have a little bit more respectability, but you do it in an honest and transparent way. And that's why I appreciate guys like you and Ross, two of my favorites. And all right, enough about me, Jay. This is not the Jono Bond stuff. I want to say, though, the reason why I have built this platform that you have given me credit for is because of people like you. Like when I first started out and you had already built this great platform, you didn't look at me and say, oh, this kid only has 700, 800 followers on Twitter. Why would I give him attention? No, you from day one, when you saw what I was attempting to do, show me love. You always give me some advice when I text you. You've used your platform to boost me up. I mean, you wouldn't believe how much when I first started in 2021, a simple retweet from you. Now I got 200.
It's like the
Pelicans fan base, but that's the type of stuff that I don't think people see. Well, obviously, I don't think a lot of fans see, but like that you don't realize the impact you make on people like me. So that's why I also brought you on the show. I really would just want to publicly. I know I've thanked you before private, but like what you have done, what you building your platform, but what you have also given back. And I haven't even mentioned like how you support people like Ral. You know, like you really give back to those who are trying, and you always say you don't care if the person has 20 followers. If anybody ever comes to you, Jake, and says, hey, I need some advice, or can you kind of help build me up? I want to do what you do. You always give your time and your energy, and I appreciate that. And that is the biggest reason why, man, you are this shit more than a game certified. I hope you know that, Jake.
I appreciate that. Look, like people did it for me when I was coming up, right? Like, you know, I know a lot of people joke around Fletcher Mackel's like terrible trades, but he was the first person to like pull me on TV, right? Like I owe him a good bit for that because it adds
Fletcher,
like,
by the way, I love Fletcher.
No, I love Fletcher. I think very highly of him. Like he's the type of guy that like he added legitimacy to me. And without that, who knows where I would be. So like people bringing me on their shows and inviting me on, I try and pay that forward, you know? So like if there's local people here and they're, can you come on? Like, yeah, I'm more than happy to. I don't care how many views you get. If I can help boost that up, I'm more than happy to. I like talking like this. I want more voices in this space too, right? Like I want diversity of thought, opinion, how people sound and all of that. I think is really important in this sort of thing. So I try and support people. Like my one main rule is like, don't be a dick, you know, as long as you're not a jerk, like I'm willing to support you with this. I think, you know, that's important. And that's how, if you really want to get ahead in this, like you do that, right? Rather than taking shots at people and try and pull people down. So as long as people aren't doing that, I'm going to help you out so much because there's so much room for everyone to eat here. And yeah.
Jake, we appreciate the hell out of you taking time off what is a very busy period for you as an NBA reporter to do this show. Wow. I mean, I've been checking my Twitter on the side to make sure like no breaking news happens. So thankfully nothing happened where you didn't miss out on anything. Cause I was like, it would be kind of poetic justice if another breaking news thing happened.
I told you, man, we're making time for you here, but yes, of course. Right. Whenever something else is going on.
I appreciate the hell out of you, Jake. Yes, we do want you on the show in the future when things may be a little bit slower so we can like really dive deep into the Jake Madison story. And you can, you know, like that's what we don't want to just talk, you know, sports. I mean, obviously that's why people know of us, but we want to get to know, have conversations with our guests too. So you obviously have an open invitation to come back on the show. Maybe we'll do it in person because sometimes I feel like the in person.
There we go. We can definitely do that.
But boy, it just feels a little bit more intimate, a little bit more special. But Jake, can you tell everybody where they can? I mean, everybody knows where, but can you tell everybody where they can follow you?
Yeah, it's at Nola Jake on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it now. It's the Locked On Pelicans podcast. Literally just search that wherever you get your podcast. It's on YouTube as well. You just type in Locked On Pelicans, you won't be able to miss it, really, I think. So it's all over the.
It's definitely top 2 of like Pelicans online shows and brands or whatever you want to call it. So you built something special, Jake.
I try and hustle a little bit. That's one thing I'm proud of. Like I'm willing to put in the work. I've been trying to improve. Like, you know, every year I take stock of it and trying to get better and like, what do I need to work on? So like, it's gone a long way. It's been fun. I love being part of this community and all of that. So I appreciate you chatting with me, man.
I want to be on Locked On Pelicans one day. Is it like an angry fan?
We're going to get you on.
Just the Locked On your bosses, do they allow like an angry fan?
Oh yeah, trust me. I actually have some off-season plans where I was like thinking about you the other day for things that I want to do. We're gonna have some fun on the show. Like again, it's formulaic. I don't get to truly be myself on there like all the time, and I get that. I love the show. I love the format. But like in the off-season, it's like we can take a breath, and there's not games every other day. Like we're gonna have some fun, and you're gonna be involved in that, man.
I appreciate that so much, Jay. Oh, I do have one final question. You said that you had this interview with BI and Trey that we'll never see the light of day because, you know, of the content, which is fine. But I don't think people even care about that. They want to know about this lost episode of Locked On Pelicans that I am mad that you never put out. Jake, when is this episode of Locked On Pelicans coming out? We all want to know, does Zion make the right choice? So,
I was wondering where you were gonna go with that, and I was like, what lost episode of my show have I done? Oh man, you're gonna get me in trouble here, man. It's a good photo show. Also, good thumbnail image of me right there.
that was one of my best. All right, hold on. I don't want to get him in trouble. This is a Photoshop that I did when the whole Zion thing happened.
That's pretty
Jake
good,
had
man.
nothing to do with it, but Jake has always been a good sport with my unique brand of content and humor. But Jake, I still feel like when you saw it, you probably did do an episode. You just, maybe for yourself. But if you ever want to send it to me on the low, I'd appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Yeah. Just the secret episode here of Locked On Pelicans.
Jake, man, we appreciate you again. You got a ton of people in the chat. I'm sorry, y'all, that I didn't have my producer join me today to kind of keep up with the chat, but you brought a good audience to my show. So I appreciate you. The chat and the community appreciates you, Jake. And here's the real final question, Jake. Can you let everybody know why you joined the Jono Barnes Show?
Because wait. Oh, yeah. How do I say it?
I don't know if Locked On allows you to curse. So you can say the PG version.
Oh, I can do whatever. Not on my show, but I can do it here.
Can you tell everybody, Jake, why you joined the Jono Barnes Show?
Because this shit more than a game.
Hell yeah. Jake Madison from Locked On Pelicans, thank you for taking time out to join the Jono Barnes Show. We cannot wait to have you on future episodes, and we will be definitely following you all throughout the offseason to see what the Pelicans continue to do as we get into a very, very important 2024-2025 season. Jake, we can't wait to watch our future Locked On Pelicans episodes. Thank you so much, my guy.
Of course. Thanks for having me on, dude. I really appreciate it. This was fun.
We'll take a quick break from our sponsors, and we will be back to wrap up the show, guys.
You know what Dejounte Murray, you hold him in the tackle him. Oh my, I'm tired of this thing, man.
Jono, the leaders are gonna call the cops.
Oh God, this shit more than a game, man.
Ah, yes, we've all been there before. This shit is more than a game, man. And now, these shirts are more than a game. But did you know that this merch wasn't made only for sportswear? No sirree. This shit more than a game is a lifestyle brand. You can wear the shirts for anything, such as going shopping, working out,
This shit more than a game.
doing chores, setting the mood,
Oh yeah, that's that thing I like.
changing a tire, robbing a bank,
Go.
jumping a Falcons fan, and so much more. So purchase your official This Shit More Than a Game merch today for the low starting point of $28.03 and let the world know this shit more than a game. Warning, please see a doctor if you feel you've gone too far with taking this shit more than a game. This shit more than a game is not associated or licensed with any organization or entity except for Jono Barnes LLC. This shit more than a game is not responsible for any fights caused by the shirts. Jono Barnes LLC does not promote or recommend violence of any kind unless it's at the expense of a Falcons fan. All right, guys, and before we wrap up the show, I do want to say a comment on the story that has gone absolutely national, all because of a silly little suggestion that yours truly made. We have to talk about it before we close up the show, right? We have to talk about it. So, of course, we all know the Pelicans traded for Dejounte Murray, right? Now, as soon as the trade happened, of course, everybody was just tweeting about their thoughts on, they wanted to wish Larry Lance and Dyson Daniels the best. They wanted to talk about the excitement of Dejounte Murray coming to the New Orleans Pelicans, but not Jono. You see, Jono was like, it would be great. It would be absolutely great if the Times-Picayune had the headline be from a HAWK to a Pelican. Now, if you know, right? I don't want to get into the details of what HAWK TUAH is, but if you're on the internet like me often, you know how HAWK TUAH has become the hottest meme out there right now, and the HAWK TUAH girl who's now about to be a celebrity is like the hottest thing on the internet. So it seemed like it was an obvious a pun that I didn't invent this pun, y'all. I never claimed I invented the pun, but it was an easy joke. Like from a Hawk to a Pelican. He was an Atlanta Hawk. He is now a New Orleans Pelican. Hawk TUAH is the hottest thing on the internet. Let's make that the headline, from a Hawk to a Pelican. Well, to my surprise, but this shows why New Orleans is the greatest city in the world. The Times-Picayune actually did it. Granted, they did it in a PG way. You know, they can't go full throttle with it, which I understand. It's the same way, like, if I ever do TV or something, they're probably going to say, you could just say it's more than a game, Jono. You can't say this shit more than a game. But they actually went through it, and they put from a Hawk to a Pelican. Now, tell me that's not special, y'all. Tell me that's not special. I tell people all the time, it's one, and they always say, if you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, right? Okay, but if you make it in New Orleans, you don't need anywhere else, because the love of New Orleans is so special. I'm not a big-time content creator by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not an influencer. People call me an influencer sometimes. I hate that word, to be honest, but I'm not even an influencer. But to have that much of a community that, you know, I was able to get the attention of the Times-Picayune to actually go through with the from a Hawk to a Pelican headline, that's special. And that can only happen in New Orleans. I feel like if a New York content creator did that, the New York Times isn't going to run that headline. If a Los Angeles content creator did that, a Los Angeles Times is not going to run that headline. But here in New Orleans, that's why this shit is more than a game. And it even went national, y'all. It even went national because the Daily Mail in the United Kingdom reported about it. Look at that. Look who they got on that little article. National article. 143 shares, 45 comments. The comments were mainly just negative, like, oh, I'm tired of this Hawk TUAH meme. Not Jono Barnes. Look at that little old Jono Barnes in the United Kingdom newspaper. All because of a silly little tweet. I did that tweet, y'all, at a wedding rehearsal dinner. I wish Ziggy was on the show so we could share the story together. Like, I did that tweet, put my phone down because I had to get back to the actual wedding rehearsal. But a little silly tweet turned into a national headline story. Even a great website like Awful Announcing covered the story. And this is actually one of my favorite articles, I guess, of all time, because they even like say, look at that. One, he used my government name. This reporter really did his research. He didn't even call me Jono Barnes. He put Jonathan Barnes. So he really did his research. He put known for the this shit more than the game merchandise. I was like, wow, we really doing something special when, you know, you got national reporters coming in, reporting, and even actually knowing about what we have built here on the Jono Barnes channel. So I'm extremely honored. It was just another cool chapter in this content creation game that I've done. I mean, I'm very appreciative of the words Jake said about my rise, I guess. And I don't know if it's me being humble or just me not smelling my own flowers, but I just had this attitude always of I need to do more. I need to achieve more. I'm addicted to success. I achieve one thing, I celebrate it for like 24 hours, and then the next 20. And then for the future, I'm like, what can I do next? Like, I want to continue to climb. I want to continue to to get money, to be honest. But, you know, with the notoriety and all that comes with it has been real cool. But I want to continue to climb that ladder of success. And this is definitely a climb in the right direction. I was even lucky enough to pick up a copy of it, which I have right here. And if you are in the New Orleans area, make sure you get yourself a copy of this, because this is Jono Barnes inspired. Shout out to Rod Walker. Shout out to Christian Clark. Shout out to who's the girl? I want to give proper credit because the actual editor, the designer, made the thing. So let me get her name right quick. I don't want to botch it. I know I had it written it down somewhere. Well, maybe I didn't. I believe her name was Tanya. Shout out to Tanya. Shout out to, obviously, the Times-Picayune for helping us out with this and making this. Oh, here we go. Tanya Ramirez Ulrich. So to Rod Walker, who I believe we're actually going to have. I don't want to spoil it, but I just did. Rod Walker, sports writer of the year in Louisiana, who said that he will come on the Jono Barnes show. Again, because you guys are giving me this platform, we're getting Louisiana sports writer of the year is committed to the Jono Barnes show. Christian Clark, the Pelicans beat writer, the Times-Picayune itself, and Tanya Ramirez Ulrich for making this happen. This wasn't planned. This was all organic, y'all. again, from a simple tweet from me at a wedding rehearsal, turned into this great, great headline. I hope the HAWK TUAH girl sees it for selfish reasons. I want to have her on my show because right now she's the hottest thing in the goddamn world. So that'll be a huge platform boost for me. But it just shows the fun of New Orleans. It shows the beauty of New Orleans. And I'm proud that I can say I inspired a headline in the Times-Picayune and the Advocate. And that just shows you guys why this shit is more than a game. So if you pick up a copy and you want me to autograph it, just let me know, okay? I'll be in New Orleans throughout the rest of the year, and I would be happy to sign from a HAWK to a Pelican. Now, somebody had tweeted when this happened, they were like, Jono, you made it. You got a Times-Picayune headline. I said, yeah. I would say that Jono Bones has made it when one day in the Times-Picayune, we get a headline that says more than a game. They ain't got to put this shit. I get it. It's a newspaper, right? But when we get the headline one day that says more than a game, then Jake Madison and all you guys, y'all can say that Jono Bones has made it. But I have enjoyed this just very fun climb of success and what content creation has brought me. I mean, from Eric McCoy coming to my crib to having the Times-Picayune be inspired by a headline of mine, having Jake Madison on the show tonight. Like, we've done some really cool and special things on the Jono Bones Show and on my channel to say that I only have 10,000 followers. If a national brand would ever see me, I mean, clearly they do because no sponsors ever want to actually sponsor this damn show or content. You know why? They look at the numbers. He only has 10K followers. He only gets 70 people in his live streams. He's not doing anything important. We need to go to follow these people who have 200,000 followers on Instagram. But they don't see, y'all. They do not see like magic like this. They don't see what happens when you actually have a true community. And that's what we have on the Jono Bones Show. And that's what I tell myself a lot. Sometimes I got to remind myself that, like, what we have built here is a true community. All right? This doesn't happen in New York. Somebody might have 1 million followers and can I make this happen? Somebody on Instagram in LA can have 500,000 followers because they're cooking, because they're showing their ass. They can't inspire this. But this shit more than the game community can. And that's why I love the city of New Orleans. That's why I love the state of Louisiana. And that's why no matter where it takes us, even if we do go national one day, y'all, always remember this shit more than the game, born and bred it in New Orleans, Louisiana. And you guys who watch the show every single week are the reason and the foundation of this shit more than the game. So I appreciate each and every single one of you guys. I appreciate the Times-Picayune for having some fun with me this past weekend. I'm just honored and humbled and really excited that we made national news this weekend. How awesome is that? How awesome is that? Shout out to the HAWK TUAH girl. Shout out to the HAWK TUAH girl. Yes, we do need a collab. D Jones 6. I would love to have the HAWK TUAH girl on my show. You know why? Because they share more than the game. We'll see you guys next week on the Jono Bones Show.
Jono.